So okay, I was rambling for a lot on that one. I'm sorry. Whatever the fucking question was, I'd like to throw it back at you, but I can't even remember where I started that one.
Discovery.
Yes. So you were discovering bands through skate videos and along those lines, but like, how did you keep discovering them?
Yeah.
Wait 1 second. Because I kind of covered a lot of that, but I want to talk about concerts. Like where you were from, you were in Boulder. Now, how did you figure out where the fucking punk bands were playing in fucking Boulder, Colorado? How did you get out to Denver to fucking see punk bands? And how did you hear about where they were gonna play? And it's pretty cut off. I mean, it's not like coming from Montana or some shit. But you know, you're well away from Denver, so how did you hear about, or what was your first concert? I don't know, all of that. I'd like to hear about like your discovery of the live music aspect of punk.
All right. Well, I do want to talk about music first, though, because this also kind of ties into coming from a small town. So Boulder,
Okay.
Boulder is like a small college town. At the time I was growing up, there was population of 60,000 people there. So we had some record stores, and we had some small places where bands came through and played shows. But a lot of the discovery aspect of the music had to be done almost in like a archaeological style. So like I discovered Minor Threat. I didn't really have a lot of older people in the scene that were like guiding me and telling me, this is what this band you need to know. I got into the scene with friends my age, so we were all kind of discovering the stuff simultaneously.
Discovering it together.
So that's when I really started paying attention to record labels. The Minor Threat discography was on Discord, and so were all the
Anything you found on Discord, you'd buy.
And so were all the Fugazi records, and then I realized Ian McKay was running Discord Records.
Right.
So then I started going through the Discord catalog. I'd get the Flex Your Head compilation. This opened up everything about the DC hardcore scene. So I started learning about those bands. Like you said, reading the thank you lists and the releases.
And then also looking at what shirts they were wearing and what was painted on their jackets and shit like that.
Exactly.
That was a super big part of it.
Exactly. A very well-known person from the Minneapolis scene, Skell, was living in Colorado when I was in high school, and I'd see him walking around, and it was just always like, when I first started getting into punk, I didn't know who he was, but I was like, oh dude, that guy's fucking cool. And he'd go.
So Skell lived in Boulder?
I think so. He's lived in Boulder or Denver for a while.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't picture Skell living in Boulder. That's weird.
But
cool.
But anyways, like,
good for you,
But I didn't know him or anything. But I'd see him walking around, and one day he was in the record store, and I just sort of from the corner of the room, I was sort of paying attention to the bands he was like going through and like looking through in the bins, and then when he'd leave, I'd go where he was and sort of like,
So you were stalking him.
I wasn't stalking him,
but this was before the term stalking.
And this wasn't even stalking. It was before the internet too. So
yeah, exactly. You had to fucking figure it out somehow. So you're kind of like standing behind him, looking at what he would pull out, and then you're like, okay, cool. Maybe they got another copy of that, and go, yeah, okay, they got 2 copies. I'm taking that one because it must be good. He looks cool.
One story that really sticks out in my head was when I was in high school. I used to do research for my papers at the university library, because the library we had in my high school was pretty shitty, but the university library was really vast and expansive, and it was awesome. And as a high school student, I could get access to all the library resources in the university, and I could go check stuff out. So they had a music library there. And in between studying, I went to the music library, and I remember typing into the super, old school MS-DOS search terminal, typed in punk rock, and 2 records came up.
Okay.
It was Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, and Amoebics Arise. And so the connection is that Jello Biafra, I think, Jello Biafra grew up in Boulder, in my hometown. And because he ran Alternative Tentacles Records, I think at some point Jello Biafra took some of his releases and he donated them to the library at the University of Colorado.
Okay.
Because I don't understand how my local university library had original vinyl copies.
It's pretty fucking esoteric for a fucking college library to have Amoebics and Dead Kennedys. I mean, you'd think they'd have, the Clash.
Something like that.
The Clash Combat Rock, and that's probably about it.
Right. So I checked out Amoebics Arise. I already knew who the Dead Kennedys were, and I had that record on CD, but I didn't know who Amoebics was. And I checked out Amoebics Arise on vinyl, and I sat there in the listening station, and I was like, what the fuck am I listening to?
Right.
Like, this is incredible. I was like 15 years old.
And it was probably similar to that moment when you heard the Minor Threat discography, just flattens you and you just don't want it to end,
Yeah. So going back to so because Boulder is a small town and because it's a college town, there was a venue that was connected to the university. And it was part of the student union building, and it was called Club 156. Okay. And it was called 156 because that was the capacity of the venue.
Clever name.
Yeah. Okay. And so Club 156 was actually an awesome all ages space. And I really feel lucky that I grew up when I did there because it became a conduit for bands traveling across the US, and anyone who's toured the US knows that, once you get away from the coasts, you're basically in no man's land, and the distance between drives is very long. And so when you have like a good spot like Boulder or something to stop and break up this long ass drive,
you gotta take advantage of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think the very first punk show I saw in Boulder was Blank 77.
Okay.
The next probably really significant show I saw was the Circle Jerks at the Azatlan Theater. And this was like in...
What was the Azatlan?
The Azatlan Theater was like this beautiful old performance art theater that they had...
in Boulder?
No, the Azatlan Theater was in Denver.
Oh, okay, so you trekked out to Denver.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the interesting thing about this story, and I'll try to keep this a little short because I know this is rambling too, but... in Colorado, we had this program called Teletoons.
Okay.
And Teletoons was a public access TV show run by people that were involved in like the goth punk industrial scene in Denver. And so they would do sort of like a MTV VJ style show on public access where they play like old Sisters of Mercy videos and Sex Pistols and Ramones and, 9 Inch Nails and just like everything that was sort of like kind of dark and cool and subculture-ish, they would play videos. And I was watching...
See, because the name Teletoons... I'm sorry, I just had to interrupt, as I always do. I interrupted you a lot the last time, but hopefully this is the last time. Teletoons. It sounds like a cross between Teletubbies and cartoons. So it's interesting that they would be playing like cool music on it. Because when I hear that name, I'm like, what the fuck they were playing like?
Yeah.
But it was more like TUNES, not TOONS.
Right, like tunes, like music.
Yeah, okay,
television tunes.
Okay. Now I'm on deck. Sorry. Let's get back to it.
So anyways, like my parents didn't have cable. I was in kind of like a cultural desert. So Teletoons came on, and all of a sudden I had like a visual gateway into subculture. And one night I was watching Teletoons, and they announced that they were giving away tickets to see the Circle Jerks at the Azatlan Theater. And I grabbed the phone and I called, and someone picked up, and they're like, "Hey, you won." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "You won tickets to the Circle Jerks." I was like, "Yeah, sweet." Nice. And I remember that show. Verbatim. Like it was such an incredible moment. And
how many tickets did you win?
I won 2, and I took my friend Ryan.
Okay, cool.
I had my dad drop us off a block and a half away from the venue.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's how it is, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we had our skateboards, and we went. That's when they let you into shows with skateboards.
Wow.
In the 90s.
Fuck. That's crazy.
I went to almost every concert in the 90s with a skateboard in my hand.
I guess, because like I said, I never really skated so much, but I guess, kids were taking their skateboards. And then
Which is a bad idea, because we would have they would take our wallet chains, but they'd let us keep the skateboard, which I thought was like really weird.
Because, I remember when that became a thing of like, you can't bring your skateboard in because people were smashing each other in the face with skateboards, you know?
Yeah. I guess Colorado, they thought it was more transportation, but anyway,
which it was, you know.
But it was like it was the Circle Jerks, Unwritten Law, and I want to say
heard them.
Pinhead Gunpowder, which is like
the name. What was Pinhead Gunpowder? They had some.
No, sorry, Pinhead Circus. It's a Denver
Circus.
band, old Denver band.
Okay.
And yeah,
something with a pinhead.
Circle Jerks were on like a comeback album. It was packed. They were awesome.
Yeah.
They played almost all of Group Sex.
Yeah.
Keith Morris made everybody in the venue sit down.
I hate it when punk bands do that.
But it was kind of funny. Like he was just like, we're not, they come on and he sits down on the stage and he's like, we're not playing until all of you sit down.
Okay.
And this wasn't a seated theater. This was like,
sit down on the floor.
So he sat there and waited for every single person to sit down. And then as soon as the last person did, he like jumps 20 feet up in the air and they go into it. And they just didn't stop. It was awesome.
Okay.
It was a great fucking show.
Okay. That sounds like a cool way of doing it. But I mean, I just think I hate it when the bands say, okay, everybody sit down. And it's like, okay, I thought this was a free thinking movement, not like you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's cool that he got everybody to sit down and then he fucking pounces fucking.
I think it was just to rile people up. He like it's I think it's an old stage trick. Like let's get everyone mad right before we start.
Right. And then okay, you're all sitting down, but I'm jumping the fuck up in the air and everybody else should too. You know, it's like the wind up.
Yeah.
You know? Like cocking the gun that is loaded and then bam, it's off.
So
cool.
One interesting thing about Colorado's scene is like, because it was so small and because we really didn't have, van loads of touring bands coming through all the time, when there was a show, it was like you would have like a ska band and a straight edge band and a grindcore band. And they would all be playing together, bringing all of their friends together.
Nice, because you got experience of like many different sides of all the aspects of this underground culture, you know, instead of just this style, and then you can just sort of cannibalize inside of that style, you know. But no, you get ska and grindcore. Like, I like elements of both of those. Okay, cool, you know. Huh.
Yeah.
Fuck. Cool.
Anyway, so I'm curious about.
No, you're not. You're just being polite. You're not curious at all. You could give a fuck. You're like, okay, well, I'm gonna be polite because you asked me a question. I'm gonna ask you a question also.
No, but I want to know. I want to know about the kinds of places that you went to go see your first shows in Seattle, especially because.
Okay, well, I mean, I was from the east side. We were the poor kids of the rich neighborhood. You know what I mean? And that happened back then. Now I don't know if there's any poor kids in that area at all. First punk show I saw was actually in Kirkland because I grew up on the east side of Seattle. We were the poor of the rich. You know, there was. Back then, you had the suburbs, and you had the kids with the fucking like flash cars, and you had the kids whose parents wanted the kids to grow up in a wholesome neighborhood, so they would move to the suburbs and fight tooth and nail to afford rent and all of that so they could grow up in the non-troubled part of Seattle. Anyway, so that was all of us kids, the the kids with parents with no money, and for some reason that kind of led us into punk and thrash metal for some weird reason. I don't know. Some reason if you're rich, you don't listen to music like that. Anyway, we could debate about that all night, but we in Kirkland we had Skipper Hall, which was fondly nicknamed Skipper Skank Hall. And skanking is another word for slam dancing and moshing and all that. Now it has different connotations. But anyway, we were walking around one day, getting stoned, being bums, nothing to do, so we just walk around, and we kept seeing these flyers for a concert at Skipper Hall. And we knew the address. We're like, okay, that's right above the fucking the Subway downtown, the Subway sandwich store. Not the, I mean, it was suburbs, so we didn't have a Subway, but we had a sandwich store. And we decided to go. And who the fuck was playing? It was False Liberties and Compost. Yeah, a band called Compost. They were hardcore with hair too. Ben Nikonoski was in the band. He had super long hair, but he was playing this hardcore fucking punk. And Zyklon B played that show too. I don't even know if they were from Seattle or not. They did not make so big of an impact on me that I had to collect their vinyl, but it was a pretty fucking amazing show. It was just like hardcore, and hardcore was such a thing like that I don't know, you just see a fucking flyer and it looked cool and the names are cool and you'd go, And I remember me and my friends, we got right up close to the front of the stage because we'd been to metal shows, and that's what you did at a metal show. You got close to the stage and headbanged. So we got close to the stage. As soon as the first band played, we got just destroyed by the fucking circle pit. And all of us got on the edge and we were like, what the fuck was that? What just happened? What, oh my God. And we were just all beating the shit out of it because we didn't know how to dance with the movement, I remember thinking like, okay, that's a thing. Okay, I guess I gotta figure this part out if I want to be a part of this scene. So that's when I started kind of like spreading my wings like, okay, I see how it goes. It's just moving around in a circle. Okay, kind of got hurt from that first blast, but maybe I'm going to try it, And got in and started dancing and shit. Yeah, after that, every single concert, we were doing circle pits and shit, and stage dives and all that. Really one of the first, was it punk or wasn't it? I mean, it was like hardcore, thrashy, crossover, kind of what we were all doing back then, but
I think it counts.
Yeah. To us, it counted back then. To people looking at it now, they might not recognize it as punk or hardcore, or all the words have changed through the years, you know. But back then, these words were what we were using for what we were into, And it was super fucking cool, And then from that, there was seemed like a show every weekend at Skipper Hall. Can't remember all the bands I saw there. And then across the water, you'd take the ferry to go to Natasha's, and we'd see the Accused like constantly. And then I remember I saw Napalm Death there one time as well. And fuck, it was just a fucking good time to be young and going to shows, You'd strap your boots on, and a friend of mine, he used to wear a cod piece, one of them like cup protectors. He was like, yeah, okay, we're fucking hitting the pit hard tonight, And it wasn't a jock thing for us, and it wasn't a fucking like anything but like, I mean, to me, we were just dancing, but we were all just super young male kids who we wanted to dance, but it just happened to be violent because we were so full of piss and vinegar and angst and testosterone that's just kind of how it played out, That's all it was. So when that whole movement came up of like anti-violent dancing, I was confused because I was like, I honestly didn't know it was violent. I thought it was just because I think there's a difference between violence and aggressive. You know, to me it was just aggressive because we were just pent up hostility, you know, and probably never had sex before and just like smashed it out with a bunch of other dudes, you know? I don't know.
I think the time has changed so much
Yeah.
from particularly even the distance from you getting into stuff in the very, very like late 80s,
Yeah.
you know, to me discovering stuff in the 90s.
Mm.
To today, the scene and the dynamics and everything has changed so much that it's easy to look back on stuff and to not recognize it as what you know now as punk.
Right.
But particularly since our initial exposure was really pre-paradigm shift of information technology, yeah, you would just see a flyer on the wall of someplace, and you wouldn't know any of the bands, you wouldn't know anyone who was going, but you would just go because it was a thing that was happening. And then you would meet people there, and it was very much organic back then.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, these days you get a Facebook invite for a show, and then you listen to all the bands and you make judgments before you go, and then you decide not to go or something like that. And back then you didn't really have that option. It was like, no, this is happening and we're going because there's literally fuck all else to do.
Well, here's the thing. Think about this. For us, when we were young, it was just about live music more so than anything else. I'm just going to distill it to the point, like, we just wanted live music. And being the poor fucking kids, who had the cheapest fucking door prices? The fucking punk shows. Know what I mean? So I was like, oh, there's a flyer. $5. Cool, we're there, you know? And who's playing for $5? The fucking punk bands, you know? So super got influenced by all of that. Just, I don't know, there could be a whole discussion made about getting into punk just from being a poor kid versus being a rich kid, you know? Is that what led to it, or did one follow the other? Did the other follow the one? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's interesting.
This episode's kind of interesting because we're talking about something that's really so super subjective.
Yeah.
You know, because one thing that I get really bored with is when people try to sit around and debate and talk about what the meaning of punk is, what it is, what it isn't. To me,
what is punk? This is what punk is.
To me,
fuck off.
All of that discussion is pointless because really, to me, punk was about this discovery process. It was about you know, researching the pictures on albums and looking at what people had on their jackets and then trying to figure out what that band name was, and then you know, or making mixtapes and stuff like that. So
I mean to me Sex Pistols was the first punk band I heard, and then I judged everything else on that feeling, you know? So if it gave me that same feeling, then to me it was punk. And you can look back on it now and go, no, that wasn't fucking punk at all. Like, well, I don't care. See, that's why I didn't want to, and we talked about this a little bit before. Side note, we do talk about the podcast a little bit before we do. But we talked about, like, we don't really want to talk about what punk is or isn't, you know? That's been done to death, and it's fucking boring. So we wanted to talk more about, like, the relatability of it by how it related to us. But to me, it's like when I was a teenager, I didn't give a fuck what punk was or wasn't, or what the definition of it was, or what the fashion of it was, or what anybody looked like. All of that was completely irrelevant. What was relevant was, does it make me feel like this? You know? And that feeling, to me, that was what punk was. So that's all I got to say about that.
I don't think I could have put that any better, actually. I think that's...
Well, I think you wouldn't have fucking said that like that.
No, I wouldn't
Yeah,
have. But,
exactly. I
but-
kind of...
but I mean, that
I went Southern with it again.
that is I think that is like the essence of this whole topic. It's like
Oh.
punk means so many different things to so many different people, and you can debate for decades about, who was really the first punk band, or where did it come from, or what does it really mean, blah, blah, blah.
Honestly, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
right?
because it's really about how it affects you and your own kind
Exactly.
of your own journey through it and what it meant to you. And I think, I hope that people don't lose sight of that feeling of the first charge you get from hearing that drum beat and those guitars and going to a show and being, thrust into an underground world that you really didn't know existed.
Right.
And I think that to me is more important than any like philosophical debate we could ever have about the nature of the subculture.
Because some people might get it from listening. I mean, the generation after us got it from listening to Rancid. I thought Rancid was a joke, but hey, these kids got that same feeling from that. And I don't know what kids get it from today. I mean, I know kids get that from listening to Converge or fucking anything else in the recent stuff. I mean, to me today, what is considered hardcore now sounds nothing like the Bad Brains. And to me, that Bad Brains and the Accused were like the quintessential hardcore bands. But now, what is called hardcore sounds absolutely nothing like that. And a lot of the punk sounds nothing like the early stuff as well. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the feeling you get when you listen to it.
Well put, my friend.
Thank you. So I think we kind of hit it there. I think that's a good outro. I think that's a good outro to season 1.
Yeah.
Of
for those of you,
We
for
can
the
edit
for
that
the
out.
2 of you that have been hanging on this entire
2.
time,
That's pretty.
for Zach still hanging
Zach's,
on.
yeah, exactly. Because we talk about him all the time, so he's probably listening to. When are they going to talk about me again? Yeah. So that was 10 episodes. That's a good season.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
And we'll come back at an undisclosed point in time with some more for you guys. But until then, thank you for joining us.
Well, I would like to say, because we've been getting some listener mail.
Have we?
I've been writing a few listener mails for us to answer when we come back. I think it'd be rad if we came back and answered all the listener mail I've been writing, and by the time we actually do get back, I'll have written some more of it. So I think we should start with a listener mail episode. I think that'd be good.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening, if you actually want to submit listener mail to us,
that'd be rad.
We'll drop some contact points that you can get a hold of us with.
Right. We will. And also we need to end this with a cliffhanger. So next episode, first episode of the next season, I will actually explain exactly what was going on with my underwear on that train that I talked about in the first episode. So stay tuned. You have to find out. Goodbye.
And good luck.
All right. I'm sorry, you just kept wanting to end it. I'm like, remember we talked about like ending it like this? And you're like, okay, right. I'm like, no, wait, we're in. You know what I mean? So sorry if that was a little bit like I don't know, sounded like a jumpy ending.
That's all right.
Okay. We can edit that out! We can edit that out! You're waiting for me to start. I'll start. Hey, kids who are actually over 18, if you want to follow us on Instagram, our Instagram is Rob.
We can edit that out _podcast. So on Instagram at we can edit that out _podcast.
Right. How do you underscore something? Like I didn't score enough. I underscored it. Yeah. It sounds self-defeating.
You can also find us on Facebook.
Right. At we can edit that out. Am I supposed to say something else?
No, I mean, you did great.
Hey, and our email is we can edit that out podcast at gmail.com.
Try that one more time because
I can't read your writing.
It's WCETO.
Oh, right. Okay. How did I read a whole fucking sentence out of 4 words? Makes no sense. Okay. Anyway, our email is WECTO podcast at gmail.com.
Try that one more time, but put the letters in the right order.
Okay. Our email is WCETO podcast at gmail.com. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
All right.
That's perfect. Yeah, send us your questions, your burning questions, your thoughts, recipes for apple rhubarb crumble.
Right.
Your hot takes on apple rhubarb crumble and whether or not it's a good thing or not.
I want to find things you found in your pocket in my mail as soon as possible.